Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopijana Vallabha Giridhari Gopijana Vallabha Giridhari Asaranandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Giridhari Dasaranandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Bala, Hare Bala, Nitai Gaura, Hare Bala. Nitai Gaura, Hare Bala, Hare Bala, Nitai Gaura, Hare Bala. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Radha Govardhana Ki Jai Jai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. Chapter 21, text 8. Tavat prasano bhagavan pushkaraksha kite yuge darshayam asatam chata sabdam brahma dadadvapu Tavat prasano bhagavan pushkaraksha krite yuge darshayama satam chataha sabdam brahma dadadvapu tavat prasano bhagavan pushkaraksha krite yuge darshayama satam chataha sabdam brahma dadadvapu. Vaishnavis? Tavat, then, prasana, being pleased, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Pushkara Aksha, lotus-eyed, Krite Yuge, in the Satya Yuga, Darshayamasa, showed, Tam, to that Kardama Muni, Chata, Ovidura, Shabdam, which is to be understood only through the Vedas, Brahma, the absolute truth, Dadat, exhibiting, Vapu, his transcendental body. Translation. Then in the Satya Yuga, the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead, being pleased, showed himself to that Kadama Muni and displayed his transcendental form, which can be understood only through the Vedas. Purport. Here 2 points are very significant. The first is that Kardama Muni attained success by yoga practice in the beginning of Satya Yuga, when people used to live for 100,000 years. Kardama Muni attained success, and the Lord, being pleased with him, showed him his form, which is not imaginary. Sometimes the impersonalists recommend that one can arbitrarily concentrate one's mind on some form he imagines or which pleases him. But here it is very clearly said that the form which the Lord showed to Kardama Muni by his divine grace is described in the Vedic literature. Shabdam Brahma, the forms of the Lord are clearly indicated in the Vedic literature. Kardama Muni did not discover any imaginary form of God, as alleged by rascals. He actually saw the eternal, blissful and transcendental form of the Lord. Tavat prasana Bhagavan pushkaraksha krite yuge darashayama shatam chata shabdam brahma dadad bapu. Then in the Satya Yuga, the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead, being pleased, showed himself to that Kardama Muni, displayed his transcendental form, which can be understood only through the Vedas. So, continuing on in this particular section on the meditation of Kardama Muni, and Prabhupada emphasizes here there are 2 points that are significant. That the Kardama Muni did meditation and yoga practice, and it was the beginning of the Satya Yuga. This has been explained in the previous verses. People in the Satya Yuga, Prabhupada again mentions it, they lived for 100,000 years, and I think it was Kadama Muni did the meditation on the Lord for 10,000 years, was it? 10,000 years. And also, I think was it in the previous verse or maybe the verse before in the purport, was mentioned that Prabhupada actually said we have other examples of those who meditated for a long time. Valmiki Muni meditated for 60,000 years. So there's many examples. But the point, one of the points being made here by Prabhupada is that it was an authorized process to attain self-realization and God-realization for a particular age, Satya Yuga. It wasn't something that Kadama Muni just stored up, or something that pleased him more than perhaps other methods. No, the prescribed method for that age was that meditation and austerity. And so we have many examples of this. I was just reading when I was in Melbourne giving the class there about the Prachetas, the sons of King Prachinibhaisha, who were asked by their father to help to rule over the kingdom and populate and have large families and so on. And so they went and decided to go and worship the Supreme Lord, and they travelled through the forest and then came to a big lake area, and they went in that lake and they meditated for 10,000 years. That was also in the Satya Yuga. Now, interestingly enough, in that story, it is mentioned that they actually went to the place of Kailash, which was a beautiful area of Lord Shiva. And so just at that time when they were there at the lake, Lord Shiva happened to go there. Well, of course, Prabhupada explains it wasn't just happened. He knew they were coming, and he knew their purpose. And so he went there, and he was accompanied, Lord Shiva, these great personalities, are very rarely by themselves. They're accompanied by many others. They're such wonderful personalities. And he went before them, and so they were very overwhelmed. They were very overwhelmed to see Lord Shiva. And Prabhupada explains that to actually have personal darshan of Lord Shiva is very, very rare. It's very, very rare. So that goes to another point that is made here to get, and here it is mentioned that after his meditation and tapasya, the Lord very kindly, by his mercy, showed his transcendental form to Kadama Muni. So the Lord, exhibits himself and manifests himself in so many wondrous ways. Krishna is everywhere in the material world, manifest in so many varieties. But to directly have darshan or see the Lord, that is a very rare. And even I was saying about the Prachetas, they were so overwhelmed, they fell flat dandavat and paid their obeisances to Lord Shiva. They were overwhelmed to have the personal darshan of Lord Shiva, who was like almost on the level of Vishnu. So they're very, very rare. Some yogis do tapasya and great austerities for many thousands of years just to get a glimpse of Lord Shiva or to get the mercy of Lord Shiva. Here, Lord Shiva had decided to go and meet with the Prachetas. They were such good boys, all good qualities, wonderful boys, the sons of King, I think there were 10 sons of King Prachinibhaisha, and they were going there to do this tapasya. So he actually was speaking to them, and he said, I know your purpose. I know you have come here to do tapasya, to meditate and worship the Supreme Lord. And I want to just explain to you, the best means of doing that. And I have composed some nice prayers. I've composed some nice prayers that you can use in your prayers to the Lord. And so Prabhupada comments on that although Lord Shiva knew they were very exalted personalities in their own right, Still he thought to help them even more in their purpose of propitiating the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. And so there's many wonderful prayers in that particular chapter, 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's a string of prayers that Lord Shiva had personally composed, and he recited them to the Prachetas. Now in those days, of course, in Chatha Yuga, someone heard something, they could just immediately remember it. Like we just recited this verse. If I took this board away, if I asked you to recite it back to me, I mean, I couldn't do it. I mean, I doubt any one of you could actually even remember the verse that we recited 5 minutes ago. But in those days, they could just remember. And there was a string of mantras, very beautiful mantras, by the way. I remember this particular set, very, very beautiful. Only someone of the caliber of Lord Shiva even could compose such mantras and such prayers. So he said, these are the mantras that you should use when you are worshipping the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada actually explains that mantras in themselves, if they're bona fide mantras and they're given by the Supreme Lord or given in the Veda or given by great personalities, are very great. And he comments that just like the Hare Krishna, we call it the Maha Mantra. Maha Mantra means a very great mantra. Mantra delivers the mind on the transcendental level, and a Maha Mantra is a very powerful, very great mantra. So Prabhupada mentioned in one of those purports there, he said that just like the Hare Krishna mantra is very powerful, already very powerful, but when it is given by a great soul, an empowered personality, Krishna is very pleased, and actually that mantra becomes even more powerful, So these prayers composed by Lord Shiva, very, very powerful, given by Lord Shiva, and worshipping the Supreme Lord, wonderfully glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form as Lord Vishnu, and a very wonderful prayer. So those mantras given by Lord Shiva, and of course the Prachetas, being very intelligent and being possessed of sattva goodness qualities, immediately they accepted. They didn't resist it. No, we've come here. No, we're going to we've got our own idea. Thank you very much, Lord Shiva. Nice to see you. Hari Hari Bol. But, we're going to go ahead with the way we want to do things. We already got this plan and we're really attached to it, and don't try to come and disturb it by your prayers. No, they weren't like you. You could have been like that. They could have taken that attitude. And of course, in this day and age, people, you give a good suggestion, they're very attached to doing things the way they want to do it, and they feel disturbed even sometimes when you even offer a suggestion. So, but in those days, in Satyuga, people were different, and especially the Prachetas, they were different. They immediately accepted and were very thankful. Not only accepted, but they were very thankful to Lord Shiva, very, very thankful. And they thought a great mercy that Lord Shiva had come here. And who are we? Of course, they were the sons of King Prachinivasha, but they thought, who are we that Lord Shiva has come here? What is that? What our fortune is so wonderful. And so they went in the lake under the water, and they did their meditation under the water of the lake. And in those days, of course, by the yoga practice, they reduced their breathing right down. And it was like the description is although there was 10 of them, they were in unison with their minds offering this prayer. It's amazing, amazing description. They in unison offered this prayer, all 10 of them together by some mystic power. So they did that tapasya. And they were meditating and worshipping the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the 2 points mentioned here in this verse is that, first of all, Kadama Muni was following a system that was very much authorized for that age. Doesn't necessarily mean that in other ages, there was the Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and the Kali Yuga, doesn't necessarily mean, well, Kadama Muni did it then, I can do it now. Actually, it's not recommended at all that people try to do this type of self-realization, because they haven't got the same level of qualities of sattva guna, qualities of goodness and transcendental goodness, and they haven't got a long life. They haven't got the necessary qualifications to be able to follow that particular regime. And so it's not recommended in Kali Yuga. and in the Treta Yuga and even the other yugas, that particular method was not so much used. But in Satya Yuga, it was authorized. So Kadama Muni, he didn't make it up. He followed this authorized procedure. So there's many examples. And he was given a very wonderful set of mantras. I was just thinking of Dhruva Maharaj also, when Narad Muni came there, he gave Dhruva Maharaj specific instructions. Go to the Jamuna, make a form of the Lord, you worship that form, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. There was nothing, spiritual life is not imagination. It is not imagination, it is reality. Of course, those steeped in materialism may not accept it. They may call it imagination, they may call it mythology, may call it whatever they want to call it, but actually it is not. It is very authorized. It is, as Prabhupada emphasizes here and mentioned in the verse also, Shabda Brahma. Shabda Brahma means transcendental sound. Shabda means sound, and Brahma means of Brahman, of transcendence. So it's not Maya Shabda, it's Brahma Shabda, or Shabda Brahman. Means these instructions, these mantras, these descriptions, all the processes that point one to the path of self-realization and understanding the aspects of the Supreme Lord in all these aspects, and finally his personal aspect. If the process is actually like that and is authorized, then it is Shabda Brahma. It is Shabda Brahma. It's very, very important. So we have to, if we're actually serious, I remember there was a conversation, I was giving a class in Canberra, and I just read a conversation between Prabhupada and Mr. O'Grady in America. He was talking to Mr. O'Grady, and they were talking about spiritual life, going back and forth about philosophy, and then Mr. O'Grady was very intelligent. He said that, yes, I understand spiritual life, but and Prabhupada was emphasizing one needs to approach a guru to understand these things. And then Mr. O'Grady, he said that the difficulty is how to find a guru. And he said that the problem is how to find a guru. And Prabhupada, he answered in a very wonderful way. He said, no, that is not a problem. He said, the problem is whether you're sincere. He said, that's the problem. The problem is whether you're sincere. He said, if you're sincere, Krishna will send you. I think you were mentioning yesterday about insincerity. Or maybe it was in the purport about the cheaters. Yeah, in the purport. So if you're not sincere and you just want something shallow, then Krishna is within your heart. Krishna knows that this person wants something shallow. Is not very, doesn't want to be serious. Is not really that sincere. I'll send them something that fulfills their desire. So if you want that, Krishna will send you that. But so Prabhupada said to Mr. O'Grady, that is not. The problem is finding a guru. Right, that is not. So the problem is whether you're sincere. If you're sincere, Krishna will actually send you the bona fide guru. And the bona fide guru will give you the authorized path and the serious path. Now, if one wants to be serious and attain the perfection, that's one thing. Then Krishna knows that. Then, I always remember this conversation with Prabhupada in the early days. He was going up, he was invited by Mr. Lou Grant to go up to that Morning Star Ranch. And in the early days, where was that? Was it San Francisco? North of San Francisco, right, yeah. So up there. Prabhupada was in San Francisco, so it was early days. And he invited, now Mr. Lou Grant had a ranch up there, Morning Star Ranch, and a few of the old-time devotees actually were living out there. I heard that Tamal Krishna Vishnu Jan was out there, and even Madhavisa visited there, he told me one time. So many of the old-time devotees were actually out there. And they were kind of like quasi-spiritual, simple living type thing. A lot of people were out there. So Lou Grant invited Prabhupada out, and he was driving a beetle bug. the time. Prabhupada was in the back. And so he was in the front. There was, I think, another devotee in the front. And he was talking about all different paths of spirituality. It was going on, and this and that and the other thing. And it was going on for quite some time. And Prabhupada just interrupted him. He said, Mr. Lu, he said, Mr. Lu, when you have found your actual path, then everything else is just superfluous. When you have found your actual. So if you're sincere, Krishna will send you someone to guide you on that path. And then you go on that authorized path. And then you begin to learn about the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is not imagination. He is not imagination. He is the descriptions of him are Shabda Brahma. He is Shabda Brahma. The one, the guide, the guru who is giving you the insight, that all are possessed of Shabda Brahma. All is authorized. Now, if you're sincere, somehow or other Krishna will arrange for you to come on that path. But we have to understand here, and Prabhupada, 2 points are very significant. The first is the authorized path in the Satya Yuga. You can't just arbitrarily, sometimes, Prabhupada actually mentions here, you can some people just say, just imagine anything you like, whether just do the meditation, just imagine the sky or just imagine the country. It may have a calming effect. But, coming to the point of serious spirituality, that is not sort of an authorized method. There are authorized methods to going on the path of self-realization. And here it is mentioned, this is described in the Vedic literature, which is also Shabda Brahma. So along with the creation, Krishna gave the Vedas and different within the Vedas, especially on the area of spirituality, Krishna gave so much instruction and advice on how those who are not just interested in material life, those who want spiritual life, they can follow certain sections of the Vedas that deal more with the spiritual aspect and make progress by following the Vedic instructions. So Vedic instructions, Vedic literature, also Shabda Brahma. So these are the points that Prabhupada, one point that Prabhupada makes here about being authorized. If you're serious, you want to actually make a rapid advancement and actually come to the perfection, then you have to follow the authorized path as given in the Vedic literature, as guided by the Guru and given in works like Srimad Bhagavatam and so on and so forth. The other point that Prabhupada makes here is that when you actually follow this authorized process, then if Krishna is pleased by your effort, by his mercy, he will show himself to you. It is a very amazing thing. As I said, the story of the Prachetas is that they were overwhelmed just to see Lord Shiva. Later on, they followed the instructions of Lord Shiva and were using those prayers, those mantras. And then the Lord came on the back of Garuda and gave his darshan to the Prachetas. Here we're finding that the Lord again has come and he's showing himself to Kadama Muni. Now, another point that is made here, that these personalities, Kadama Muni, the Prachetas, so many Dhruva, are meditating on the form of the Lord. Here the word is used, Dadat Vapu. Dadat means exhibiting a transcendental form. There's aspects of the Supreme, the Brahman, the energy, the effulgence, but there's another level which is a form, a spiritual form that can only be seen with spiritual eyes. And so that is a very high level of realization and actually can only be attained by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead if he so kindly decides to manifest himself in front of you. So it's very rare, very, very rare, and it is up to the Supreme Lord. Sometimes someone is completely unqualified and Krishna, in one of his forms, just decides to manifest himself to this unqualified person. Others have followed very nicely the different authorized process, and Krishna is very pleased with them for their effort. He's very pleased with their effort. He's not obliged. Someone can do tapasya, someone can do so many things, follow the authorized process, but if Krishna doesn't want to reveal himself to that particular devotee, then he's not obliged to reveal himself. So it's up to the mercy of the Supreme Personality of God. And Prabhupada actually says here, being pleased with him, he showed his form. And in the next verses, we'll read a very beautiful description of the form. First of all, he was effulgent like the sun, and this was wearing a garland of white lotuses and in yellow silk. So these descriptions are very specific. It's not, and Prabhupada says, which is not imaginary, he says here. It's not imaginary. It's very, very specific. Because we can't see it, and there's descriptions, and we have no experience on the material level, we conclude, or we may conclude, that it's imaginary. Just like there's all these stories from the Puranas there. It's mythology, Indian mythology, they say, Hindu mythology. We don't regard it as mythology. This is a reality, just that you on the material level cannot know it. And because you cannot know it, you conclude in a proud way, it is imagination. It is imagination. It is mythology. It's a myth. Someone has made up some stories that are very... but there's a similarity to many of the stories around the world and different cultures. So here it is mentioned that now the Kadama Muni was asked by Brahma to become married, and the Prachetas also were asked to get married and have family, and so the Kadama Muni also. So the first thing they did, which is very interesting, it's a cultural, still in India today, culturally, of course, also as far as Dharma, they went and worshipped the Supreme Lord. That's what they did. So, they say, oh, okay, now's my time to get married. What did they do? They worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead to get a good wife or get a good husband, just like we read about, where was it? I was thinking, where was I somewhere? Margashishaman. And the gopis performed tapasya to get Krishna as their husband. And they did that tapasya for a whole month. And they worshipped Goddess Katyayani. Goddess Katyayani is one of the forms of Durga Devi. She is the consort Parvati of Lord Shiva. Now, still today in India, generally girls and men, to get a good wife or to get a good husband, they worship many different demigods, but quite popular is worship of Lord Shiva and Parvati, or one of the forms of Parvati, Durga, in this case, Katyayani. Now, the Acharyas actually explained that the form of Durga, Katyayani, that the gopis were worshipping was actually the internal aspect of the Mahamaya, it means the Yoga Maya. But Prabhupada actually explains, even if you accepted it was the Mahamaya, still they are worshipping Katyayani to get Krishna as their husband. To get Krishna as their husband. So therefore, it is of the category of devotion. It is of the category of devotional service. And what did they do? They did it for a whole month. They only ate Havishyana. Havishyana is like boiled kitri. I've had Havishyana. Chatumasya, followed it for a few months. For boiled kitri, there's no kitri, there's no spices, no ghee, no salt, no nothing. Just rice and well, in my case, split peas, or you can have mung dal, and just boil. I remember I followed this when I was in TP in Adelaide. Venugopal was the head pujari, and he used to make it for me every day. And once a day, during Chatumas, I followed this. We used to do it, actually, I think I mentioned this before, when Madhavisa was following this, and he decided to have all the devotees follow it. And we were in Double Bay, and all the devotees of the whole temple followed it. There's Lagudi here. Lagudi would remember it because he used to serve it out. Yeah, you couldn't pick it up because you had to follow the way of the cow. One of the austerities of the Chaturmasya is that you had to eat like a cow. Means that your hands behind your back, couldn't use your hands, like cows can't use they just eat with their mouth. And you had to eat off the ground like a cow. Madhavisa. Anyway, so somehow or other, we all had to do it. And I did it personally, I think a year after that. But and then the temple room was cleaned thoroughly, and Lagudi would come along with the pot of Havishana, and everyone would sit down and plop it right on the lino of the temple room floor. Anyway, we were following the leader, and so we just had it like that, and like that, and the stipulation was if you were eating and you raised your head and talked or did something else, that's it. You couldn't eat anymore. And if I remember one time, someone say, "Hey, Haribol Ramai," and I just started, right? I just started. But Havishana is very bland. I remember Vena cooking it for me. After a while, he used to come and say, "Ramai, your Havishana is ready." I said, "Oh, I think I'll skip it today." We just didn't eat. Got so bland. But anyway, the gopis, they followed it for a whole month, just once a day, once a month, and they go down to Jamuna and they made a earthen deity of Mother Katyayani and used to worship her with flowers and incense and sandalwood. Also, and they used to chant this prayer. Again, an authorized process, worshipping Mother Katyayani. They didn't make this up, but they, of course, worshipping Mother Katyayani to get Krishna as their husband. And this was their prayer. Katyayani Mahamaye Maha Yogin Yadishvari Nanda Gopa Sutam Devi Pati Me Kurute Namaha Iti Mantram Chapanchasta Pujam Chakra Kamarika. O Goddess Katyayani, O great potency of the Lord, O possessor of great mystic power and mighty controller of all, please make the son of Nanda Maharaj my husband. I offer my obeisances unto you. This is their prayer, wonderful prayer. And so we have many, instances in history where they are worshipping the form of the Supreme. They're not worshipping something impersonal. Dhruva Maharaj was worshipping the form of the Lord. Here we're reading Kadama Muni, the form of the Lord. The prayers given by Lord Shiva describe the form of the Lord, and so the form of the Lord came and manifest himself, very wonderful, effulgent like the sun, on the back of Garuda. And to have that darshan, you would be overwhelmed. When Prahlad had when Lord Nrsimha manifest, has everyone seen that? There's a movie coming out in April. We were shown it in Mayapur last year in February. Someone just sent me the short. What's it called again? Something Nrsimha?
I remember the name, but we saw the trailer.
The trailer, yeah. So if you haven't seen it, it's around. It's a fantastic film. It's coming out in April, done by those who are more or less devotees, they're filmmakers, but it's an animation, but it's a kind of high class. And then Lord Nrsimha appears. I remember at the time we were in the TOVP, actually it was the opening of the Nrsimha wing, and they showed that film, that clip, the trailer, up on the big screen. And when Lord Nrsimha came out of the pillar, he was portrayed so wonderfully, I got chills. And momentarily, which is rare for me, I had I don't know about ecstatic symptoms, but I was feeling, enthralled to see the form of the Lord, effulgent and very wonderful. And we know the description, Prahlad Maharaj, he was so overwhelmed he couldn't talk. He couldn't even talk. So the Lord manifesting himself as something else. And if one is lucky enough, fortunate enough to have the darshan. But the points here made, again, that everything is nicely described. Even the forms of the Lord, they are described. We're reading here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the specific form of the Lord, what he looks like. In the Vedas, there's so many unlimited forms of the Lord. You can't have describe all of them because they're unlimited. but many are described in the Vedic literatures. So if you're following the process of self-realization, then the point is emphasized by Prabhupada and also in the verse, that follow an authorized process and then you'll make rapid advancement, and if you follow it very nicely, cent per cent, then one can attain the perfection of life. And if they're very fortunate, have darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Hare Krishna, thank you very much. I'll read this verse again if anyone has any question or comment. Then in the Satya Yuga, the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead, being pleased, showed himself to that Kadama Muni and displayed his transcendental form, which can be understood only through the Vedas. Does anyone have any question or comment? Yes.
Thank you for the wonderful class, Maharaj. I had two questions, if that's okay. First one is, you said if you are sincere, Krishna will send you guru. But if you want something shallow, Krishna might send you cheating guru, if I understood right. But in the past, in our movement, there was like guru falling down. But I know so many sincere senior devotees who are whose gurus were falling down. So how can you understand that?
Yes, well, I mean, the arrangement, Krishna saw you were sincere, and at the time everything was good. Unfortunately, some accident happened. And so that guru fell away from the path or whatever. But the original arrangement was nice. The original arrangement was nice, and so on. And if there's some discrepancy, then Krishna, if you continue to be sincere, Krishna will rearrange things nicely for you. So you have to, if your sincerity is there, even though there's some mishap on the level of, could be on the level of the disciple, could be on the level of the guru, or could be both, then if you maintain your sincerity and your seriousness, then Krishna will rearrange things. So those things where a bona fide guru is sent. But if the guru even initially wasn't bona fide, there may be, might have been some insincerity on your own part, may have been. But generally there's some sincerity for the guru was sent, and at least in the beginning everything was good. So the sincerity was there. So Krishna made that arrangement. And as I said, I repeat this again, if you continue your sincerity, Krishna will rearrange things for you and you continue on the path. One devotee, I remember, he gave a nice example of, he said that just like in our movement, we are connected by the rope of the disciplic succession to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's been many gurus in that rope, and that rope is made of multi-strands. So sometimes one strand breaks, but luckily the rope, there are other strands that the rope is still intact. Even though one or even two or three strands break, the rope remains intact. I thought it was very good. That was given by Ravindra Sarup. I thought very good comparison. The rope of the disciplic succession. So the rope is still there. You have to, that strand that you were on is broken. You have to reattach yourself to the main rope, and you'll still be connected to the parampara, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All right?
Thank you. Good analogy. Thank you. And another question is just out of curiosity. You shared your austerity performing abhishana, and you like eating like a cow vow. Huh? I'm just curious if you have any realization after that performing austerity.
Actually, you become very serious. Become very serious. I lost a heap of weight. Those of you who want to go on a diet, try Havishana for a couple of months, and it just flies off. So there's that side of it. But because you're restricting one of the prime activities of gratification, which is eating, you tend to become very more introspect. And that's what I know. They're very introspective, more philosophical. I did a lot of study in that period, that's for sure. I learned a lot of shlokas and a lot of reading and so on and so forth. I took advantage. It was Chaturmasya. And so, yeah, those are some of my realizations. And I'm sure that every individual has similar realizations, slightly different realizations, but they were some of mine. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, over here.
Maharaj, in the verse, at the end of the verse, it mentions that Krishna can only be understood through the Vedas. So you also mentioned Chaitanya Charitamrita when Lord Chaitanya first met Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya used the word Svetapamanya, meaning that the meaning of the Vedas is self-evident. But also, it's interesting that Prabhupada mentioned one of the purports there that sometimes the Vedas can be misunderstood or misinterpreted, therefore one has to listen to the Acharya, bona fide Acharya. So I guess the question is, who's the highest authority? Is it the Vedas or the Acharya?
Very good question. I mean, Prabhupada uses these terms sometimes in a specific way and sometimes in a generalized type of way. Here clearly indicated, the forms of Lord are clearly indicated in the Vedas. So, I mean, this is a generalized type of statement, and to understand more specifically, one needs to understand certain sections, perhaps, and they are explained by the Guru. So, all these things are required. Now, in the Veda, in certain sections, Upashana Kanda especially, the emphasis on, finding a bona fide Guru is also. So, in the Vedas, that's also mentioned. So, the Acharyas, learning from the Acharyas who are teaching from the Veda, and specifically on those on teaching the transcendental aspect, teaching from those particular portions of the Veda. So both are needed. So we have to be careful. One statement is a generalized statement here, another statement is more specific over there, other statements. So we have to do thorough study to understand the completeness of all the statements combined, and sometimes gurus are needed for that, sadhus are needed to understand the statements of the Shastras. So I would say an answer to that both are important, not that one is necessarily higher than the other even. Last question. Do you want to say?
Thank you, Maharaj, for the class. Just speaking a little bit to Julian's question. That's why, in the ISKCON Disciple course, there's a whole section about shelter of the Guru, and it explains that for ideally the first year of someone joining the movement, that they focus on their relationship with Srila Prabhupada. So they're reading his books thoroughly, listening to his lectures, etc. And then after at least 6 months, but ideally a year, then they can start, once that relationship with Prabhupada is established there, then they can start seeking, a Diksha Guru by listening to, we have more than 80, correct, ISKCON living gurus. But the point is that if by some unfortunate circumstance your initiating spiritual master does have a fall down, you're connected with Srila Prabhupada still. So I know that during the 80s when we had the zonal acharya situation and some gurus fell down, a lot of the devotees, a lot of their disciples left because they became very disturbed. But because these days it's emphasised that no, have your relationship with Srila Prabhupada, make that firm, and if by some very unfortunate circumstance your spiritual master does have a fall down, you're still very strongly connected to Srila Prabhupada.
And through Srila Prabhupada, through all the acharyas. That's the point that Rabindra. I'd like, did you want to?
I was just thinking of that verse in response to Manibandha's question, where Prabhupada quotes quite often. He says the Vedas are so vast, you can only understand the truth of the Veda by serving at the feet of the pure devotee.
Jai, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank all Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.